Hey YouTube, my name is Nick, and in today's video, I want to ask a very simple question, which is, could you use a Panasonic Q Game Boy player on a regular Nintendo GameCube? And what I have here is technically not actually a real Panasonic Q Game Boy player. This is actually just a 3D printed shell, and what is within this shell is actually just a normal Game Boy player. So technically speaking, by plugging this into that GameCube, it should theoretically just work. But I'm more curious about like fitment. Will it fit, and then does it work? It probably will, but let's find out. That's why I'm making this video here today. So I'm going to start by flipping this GameCube upside down, and I'm just going to attach this Game Boy player to it. Okay, so I was able to get the screws lined up with the holes on the bottom of the GameCube. So this should theoretically work now. Okay. So it looks like this might work. So just flipping this over. This is what it would look like, roughly speaking, if you were to put a Panasonic Q Game Boy player onto a regular GameCube. So obviously you can see on this side that this piece kind of sticks out a little, but if it were obviously on a real Q, it would be flush. But you can see this is connected. This is not coming apart, so this should theoretically work. And in case anyone is curious, so there is a real Game Boy player in here, obviously, like just a normal one. I had to actually also take the spring out to make the eject mechanism work. And it does actually spring back, but I guess right now it's not cooperating. But that's besides the point. So yeah, there is this little gap here. And that's just, I'm pretty sure, an error with my 3D printer or whatever, with the way it did it. Because I had to like file down or shave a bunch of the edges so that I could just kind of stick it together. But that's besides the point. I'm going to get this thing hooked up and we shall see if it will work. So as you can see, I have my GameCube powered up and hooked up. And just for fun, I decided to switch this over to JP mode because obviously the Panasonic Q Game Boy player was exclusive to Japan, because obviously the Panasonic Q GameCube variant was only available in Japan. I'm going to test out my Game Boy player with Super Mario Advance 4. So we're going to put that into the slot. I'm going to need 2 hands for this. There we go. I got it in. So it's in there, you can see. And to access the Game Boy player, I'm going to use Japanese Melee, because that's just what I have. And it gives me an opportunity to test to make sure I copied the right save file version for Japanese Melee. So I'm going to shut the lid. This might take 2 attempts because I think the caps in this GameCube disk drive are dying. But there goes the lid. We'll see if it worked. If it gives me... Nope, there it is. Okay, if it gave me no disk, I was just gonna open and close the lid again, because that usually tends to do it. But anyways, it seems to be working. Alright, so we got Super Smash Bros. Loaded. Oh, it's in English already. Okay, good. So now I just have to go to name entry, and it should launch the Game Boy player, or the Game Boy interface. Oh, it did not work. So I think I copied the wrong save file to the memory card. Okay, so I wanted to do it with JP Melee, but I think I'm gonna have to swap this back to North American mode and do it with Splinter Cell. So bear with me while I swap that out. So all I did was I powered off my GameCube and I flicked the region switch to North American mode. So that's why I have Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell now, because that's the other game that I have that I use for running exploits. So I'm just gonna hit start. It's going to tell me there's not enough space because this is my 59 block memory card. But after pressing A few times, it should start the Game Boy interface once I hit can't find this map. Oh, Game Boy player not detected. So it's possible that it isn't plugged in all the way, and that's why it failed. So I'm going to reseat it and try again. Alright, so as soon as I hit A, we'll see if I was able to properly reseat it. When I twisted one of the screws, it seemed to actually catch this time, so it felt tighter when I turned it. So we'll see if it's seated properly now or not. And the answer is no. Okay. Alright, so we're trying one more time. This time I really made sure it was tightened all the way and that it was properly catching. I held the Game Boy player together as I turned the screw. So maybe this time it'll work. I think it needs to have basically perfect connection or else it's not going to work. It's also possible with the way that my printer failed to properly make the top lid that it doesn't work. So I might have to reprint it, the top lid, so that it will actually sit in the bottom half properly. But let's try this. If this doesn't work, then that will probably end the video here. So kind of the answer would be inconclusive, which is not satisfying, but you know, let's give this a shot. Let's hope it works. Nope, didn't work. Game Boy player not detected. Okay. I will say that I did test the Game Boy player before I put it into this new case. So I'm pretty sure the issue is that because of how my printer has made the top half, that's why it's not working, because it's just not properly connecting to the Gamecube. And that's why, obviously, we're getting this error, Game Boy player not detected. Because it did work when I had it in its original housing, but obviously, yeah, this is not working. So that pretty much wraps up this video. If you want to get the file for the print, for the 3D print, the STL file for this Panasonic Q Game Boy player, let's say because you actually do have a Panasonic Q, for example, then I'll leave that link to the description. And that's pretty much the end of this video. I'm probably going to have to reprint the lid of this Game Boy player, and I'll try again in another video at some point. So that's pretty much the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.